Good morning. I would like to welcome you to the regular public meeting of the Henry County Board of Commissioners for 9 a.m. Monday, June 14, 2010. At this time, I'd like to call the meeting to order. Before I ask for an acceptance of the agenda, I would like to make note that we need to amend the agenda to add the item which is a resolution expressing the intent of the Board of Commissioners of Henry County to support the creation of a development agreement with Big Five Enterprises. And we will actually add that as item, I would say item, we'll do that first. We'll go ahead and do that one and get that one out of the way since we've been talking about this for several months now. So with that amendment to the agenda, I will ask for a motion to approve.
Move to approve.
We have a motion by Mr. Holder.
Second.
Second by Mr. Stamey. All in favor? Motion carries 5-0. So at this time, I would ask that someone from the Big Five would like to come forward and make your presentation. Good morning.
Madam Chair, members of the board, my name is Lynn Goff. I'm with ProMaker Development Group, along with my business partner Rick Halbert and I. We serve as consultants to Big Five Enterprises on their various projects. Before you is the resolution with certain financial terms for a public financing for the Atlanta Film Studio project at Terra Field. Today we respectfully ask for a vote.
At this time, I would like to ask the county manager if he would like to make some comments pertaining to this item, because I know you've been working on this for quite some time.
Madam Chair, good morning. This has been an item which has been discussed and rediscussed over time, where we have tried to come to an agreement that could do several things. Both allow for the reasonable expectation of a successful project at Terra Field, as well as protect the county taxpayers and satisfy each of the Board of Commissioners with an agreement that was acceptable to all. We've, over the course of the last couple of weeks between the last meeting and this, we've had a number of meetings. Big Five, Mr. Abbott and his representatives have found new people, new perspectives on the financial part of the deal, and I feel like we've come to a point where we have what I would term a very positive resolution, both for the county and Mr. Abbott's group. So I would present this to you for your perusal and hopefully approval.
Would you like to speak to some of the issues that have been resolved?
I think we came to the difference between this resolution and where we have been in the past includes several items in the last paragraph of the agreement, and basically it starts with number 5. The aforementioned development agreement shall include A, the provision of a current and enforceable letter of credit in the amount of $15 million from a Class A rated banking institution, guaranteeing the developer's share $15 million of the initial debt issuance. B, developer's agreement to make annual payments in lieu of taxes to Henry County equal to 100% of the county tax liability of all project property and improvements thereon as if privately held. And C, clearly stated operating structure showing all building plans, business operations, and flow chart of all funds in their application. I think this makes the what you would be approving today is your support for the creation of this development agreement, and these items make the development agreement very transparent and open for all to see. So those are the major changes that have been added over the course of the last 2 weeks.
And so this is not binding until such a time as a development agreement is brought back and approved by the board and those documents executed.
Correct. These are the terms which the Board of Commissioners would be approving that they need to have in any such development agreement.
Thank you. Does any board member have a question or comment pertaining to this item?
Madam Chair,
Mr. Holder?
I'd just like to say this. and ask a question of Lynn and the group. Are you agreeable to the to what's in this agreement or this resolution?
Madam Chair, Commissioners, if we elect to pursue the public financing delineated in the agreement that we ultimately agree upon here, yes, we are amenable to the terms.
Okay. That's been very key to me, and I want to stress again, Mr. Abbott, from day one I said that I supported your project, and I do support the project. But you also heard me say that as far as the credit enhancement and the public liability, I had concerns about that. I feel much more comfortable with the last terms of this agreement, and it's an agreement that I could support and will support. And I want the people to know, and I know you're much aware of it, but this is a two-step process, obviously. This resolution is to enter into an intergovernmental agreement with the Development Authority, and then the development agreement will be forthcoming. And as long as the terms and conditions of this resolution are met, then I certainly would support it and will support it. And that's the reason for my question. If you were in agreement to this, then I certainly will support it. And I hope you understand that there was certainly nothing personal about my not being willing to support it the first time around, but I don't think anybody on this board is capable of the bonding knowledge, the bonding lingo, and many of the hooks that can be in that, in bonding. So we have to rely on somebody that is in that field. And I venture to say that the majority of your partners are not bond literate, for lack of a better term.
It's been quite an educational experience.
It is an educational experience. I've been around it a long time, but I know enough to know that there's so much that I don't know that I'm going to have to rely on somebody who does know,
Yes, sir,
and that I have
that.
confidence in. So with that, Madam Chair, I'll be quiet.
Mr. Bowman?
I have several comments. One, I've stated all along that I was 45% for the project, 55% against the project. I feel like that after that last meeting that, at the end of that last meeting that you had a certain amount of statements that you read that I feel like were inappropriate at the time. I didn't say anything about it at the time. I'm really not going to say a lot about it at this time because I've really been for just about everything you brought to us. In this case, I want the public, though, to hear is that we're not changing our vote from a standpoint of what was brought to us the first time. This is a totally new arrangement. And it's a totally new arrangement in the way that we've reduced the amount of liability that we felt like that the citizens would have on them. And it's really important because I don't like for somebody to turn around and say, well, you flip-flopped on your vote. Well, no, because it's a totally different financial arrangement that takes away certain liabilities of the county. We looked at it from the what-if standpoint. What if it don't work? What if it works for 2 years and it goes away? What if that? And after meeting and with certain representatives that we have a lot of confidence and trust in, or that Commissioner Holder and I do, that we came up with this particular alternative that we feel like it will work for the county. It will work for us, and I will support it based on that. But I just want to let the people know that this is not, we're not rolling over and voting, okay, we voted against it. Obviously we've talked about it a lot. And it should be talked about a lot because it's an awful lot of money. But on the same token, I just want to be sure that they understand that, this is a different resolution and that it tends to make more sense. And for that, you'll get my support on it.
I'm sure your constituents appreciate your concern and due diligence, so thank you.
Yes, sir. Well, we have to do due diligence. We really do. So, but Madam Chair, that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Bowman. Mr. Basler?
Tanya, have you looked at this new resolution?
I just received this morning, so I'm not had a chance to review this resolution.
What about our bond council?
No.
Would you like us to delay the vote on this to give you an opportunity to read through it?
I would, Madam Chairman. There are a couple of things I think just need minor tweaking, but I would like to consult with bond counsel and review it before the board takes final action on this. If you could postpone it until tomorrow.
Madam Chair, I have something else.
Everybody okay with? Okay.
Just a question.
I apologize, Latanya, too, because I thought the county manager had been working with you on this.
In looking in what I've seen of this, Mr. Abbott, the property that you own over there right now, the 90-something acres that we've talked about in numerous meetings, and the hangars. Now, am I understanding that will be free and clear along with this $15 million?
correct.
And then you will, is there a time frame on this to take place?
And I believe there's a 30-day, period stipulated in there. So any of the concerns that you just addressed could be handled in those 30 days if the board were elect to vote on it this morning, so as not to further delay this process. I'm quite certain that your bond underwriters with whom this deal was structured are intimately familiar with the nuances that would be required by bond counsel and the county attorney. And I'm quite certain that there's not an issue that could be raised under any eventuality that couldn't be appropriately addressed in the time frame delineated in the resolution.
Let me ask you one more. Let me ask you this. So if we approve this today or tomorrow, whatever the life of the board is, you would have 30 days. Am I understanding that right? To secure that 90-something acres out there and the hangars, and to come up with the $15 million.
No, that is incorrect.
All right,
We have 30 days, according to the resolution in front of you, my understanding of it is we have 30 days to craft the agreement and present it to the board for approval.
All right, I got
That agreement, prior to any, there are certain stipulations that are in the resolution or would have to be crafted in the development agreement that would have to be met before any bond financing was provided. But part of the deal that was structured with bond underwriters is that the bonds would completely take out any existing debt, and there would be the collateral would be free and clear and pledged to the development authority in that state.
plus the $15 million.
That's correct.
Okay. All right, just want to be sure. All right, now, next question I have is for staff. If this passes, who in the staff is going to keep up with the, who's going to tend the fire, who is going to, the checks and balances through the county to be sure this is put in place in the order? Is that going to be left up to Mike Bush, or who are we talking about? Sometimes, you all know as well as I know, sometimes there's questions that come up and we're trying to figure out, what's the left hand's trying to figure out what the right hand's doing. I'm just trying to be sure that, can someone answer this for me?
It's my understanding, and county manager can correct me if I'm wrong, but that there will be a trustee appointed by the financing institution or the bonding institution. Is that not correct, Mr. Sanders?
I think internally, it probably would be a team of myself and our finance director and our county attorney in overseeing that process.
But there is a trustee involved in it.
Oh, there certainly will be.
Has to be. And
That's an independent firm also, isn't it? I mean, I think there's several large independent firms within the state that do that, right?
2 or 3 who that do it on a regular basis.
Right.
one comment that I'd like to make too, Johnny, in reference to, and I should have made it earlier, but a question that I have had, and I know you've had, about taxes. Well, if the county owns it, what about taxes? It's in this agreement, and it covers that by saying the developer's agreement to make annual payments in lieu of taxes to Henry County equal to 100% of the county tax liability. So the county will continue to get that tax as if it belonged to whatever. Is that not correct, Mr. Abbott?
That is part of the new resolution that's in front of you. Yes, it is.
Okay.
Which would also lead, while we're in the discussion on the tax issues, which would also go to pay the backside of the bonding issues to reduce the bond quicker, which, you know, what we've got numbers from you and from our people, and it's from 11 to 14 years, you know, which is great. It would take that off. So, I mean, that's the reasoning behind the payment in lieu of taxes, so that we can reduce that bond debt and get it off the rolls.
Any other questions or comments? If not, I'll entertain a motion to table this item till tomorrow evening. Motion by Mr. Basler, second by Mr. Holder. All in favor? Motion carries 5-0. I guess y'all get to see us one more time.
Thank you.
Moving on, under Social Services, the first item is a resolution requesting approval of the Community Service Agency contract for 2010-2011 budget year. Our presenter is Angie Bailey, Social Services Division Director, and that's Exhibit Number 1.
Good morning,
morning.
Chairman and Commissioners. As you know, there are several community services agencies here in Henry County that provide invaluable assistance and programs to our citizens here. That ranges from adults and children suffering from abuse, neglect, and abandonment, including shelter, also medical assistance, assistance with providing food products, just various services that the county would actually become liable to provide if it were not for some of these agencies. Therefore, several of these agencies have had some funding or contributions from the county over the years, and this is simply a renewal of the contracts or the service agreements, we call them, because they do provide a service to our citizens, and this is the service agreements between the county and these various agencies that we're asking you to renew this morning. I would like to say up front that the contributions to these agencies represent the same budget cuts that were realized by all of our county departments this morning. I have spoken with all of the agencies personally and individually, and they were all understanding and still grateful for anything the county could do. So if you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
Are there any questions or comments pertaining to this? Okay, if not, we're going to take these resolutions separately. The first one is between Henry County and Helping in His Name Food Pantry in the amount of $21,250, and I will entertain a motion. Motion by Mr. Bowman, second by Mr. Stamey. All in favor? Motion carries 5-0. The second one is between Henry County and a friend's house in the amount of $106,250. Motion by Mr. Stamey. Second by Mr. Bowman. All in favor? Motion carries 5-0. The next is between Henry County and Hands of Hope Clinic in the amount of $20,400. Motion by Mr. Holder, second by Mr. Stamey. All in favor? Motion carries 5-0. The next is between Community Gardens of Henry County and Henry County in the amount of $12,750. Motion by Mr. Bowman, second by Mr. Stamey. All in favor? Motion carries 5-0. The next is between Henry County and the Flint Circuit Council on Family Violence in the amount of $66,300. Motion by Mr. Stamey, second by Mr. Roark. All in favor? Motion carries 5-0. And the final one is between Henry County and Prevent Child Abuse Henry County in the amount of $12,750. Motion by Mr. Basler, second by Mr. Roark. All in favor? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you. The next item is a resolution requesting approval of the Third Amendment to the Aging Subgrant Contract with the Atlanta Regional Commission. Our presenter is Susan Craig, Senior Services Director, and that's Exhibit Number 2. Good morning.
This is our final amendment this year with our ARC contract. This represents the income tax checkoff funds in the amount of $1,257, and this will enable us to provide 137 meals to our existing clients. And I'm seeking permission or authorization for the chairman to sign the documents.
Does anybody have a question or comment? We have a motion to approve by Mr. Stamey, second by Mr. Roark. All in favor? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you. The next item is a resolution requesting acceptance of the fiscal year 2010 Federal Transit Administration Section 5307 and 5340 funds. Our presenter is David Williamson, Transit Director, Exhibit Number 3. Good morning.
Good morning. The Atlanta Regional Commission notified us a few weeks ago, of the Federal Transit Administration's allocation for Henry County for the Section 5307 and 5340 funds. This is the third year that we have been able to utilize these funds. ARC is also requesting written notification that we intend to use those funds at this time. Congress has only allocated 5/12 of our annual allocation, but acceptance of the 5/12 will indicate that our intent to use the full 100% when it is allocated by Congress. There is a 20% match, and it is a capital fund. It is just for capital purposes. Recommend acceptance.
And you have this match in your budget?
Yes, ma'am.
Any questions or comments from board members?
Madam Chair, I have one.
Mr. Stamey?
We're getting the 161,103, correct, today?
At this time, yes.
Yes.
Any other questions or comments? All right, you have before you a resolution pertaining to the FTA Section 5307 and 5340 grant, and I will entertain a motion.
Move to approve it.
Motion to approve by Mr. Stamey. Second by Mr. Holder. All in favor? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you. The next item is a resolution requesting approval of the Georgia Department of Human Resources operating grant for Connecting Henry. Our presenter is Denise Rogers of Connecting Henry. It's exhibit number 4. Okay, you're not Denise.
No, I apologize. Denise had something to come up over the weekend and was not able to be here this morning, so I told her I would step in and present this for her. Connecting Henry, as you know, is a nonprofit organization that is used as planning and coordinating agency in the county as part of the state Family Connection Program. This is just a renewal of the grant that we receive each year. The grant is at present $44,000 for this renewal year, and this is just asking you to accept that grant for the new fiscal year.
Henry County just basically acts as a pass-through agency for this.
Exactly. Yes, ma'am.
Any questions or comments? Mr. Bowman?
Is this the same one that was 46,000 last year? They cut it this year?
Yes, sir. It started out initially for several years. It was a $50,000 grant, and as the state budget has cut, it has just dwindled down slightly, and this year it's at 44.
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions?
Madam Chair. And of course, this is the second time Ms. Bailey's been up this morning, and the first time was representing several organizations that provided social services to various parts of Henry, or not parts of Henry County, but different parts of Henry County, to different parts of your life in Henry County. And I think it's amazing, and especially people that don't see this daily, to look and see just how much money goes to social services and to have a life and to maintain life in not just Henry County, but here in this county, how many dollars it takes to try to maintain a family life and keep people from beating on one another, and to keep people from jail and from people from really hurting one another. It's somewhat sad. And I want to say thank you to those people and those organizations that provide that as partial free. Otherwise, Henry County would have to bear the entire cost of these, and Connecting Henry is another way. But I think it's somewhat sad to see just really what the state of our family structure is in this entire country, and it's no different here in Henry County. And I just felt like I needed to make that comment, because many people don't have a clue as to where their tax dollars go. And this is not their direct tax dollar from Henry County, but it is tax money. It comes from the taxpayer somewhere, because these grants come back to us from taxes in some way that have been paid by somebody. So I just wanted to make that comment.
Any other questions or comments? If not, you have a resolution before you to approve the operating grant for Connecting Henry, and I'll entertain a motion. Motion by Mr. Roark. Second by Mr. Stamey. All in favor? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you. Moving on under SPLOST, the first item is a resolution designating the State Route 81 at Lake Dow Road intersection improvement project. Our presenter is Terry McMickle, Public Works Division Director, handout number 1. Good morning.
Good morning, Chairman, board members. I'm going to try to do my best Rocky impression this morning. So Rocky was unable to be here. This is a SPLOST, but I'll try to answer any questions you have. What you have in front of you this morning is 2 resolutions that will be coming before you. The first one is the designation of State Route 81 at Lake Dow. That is a SPLOST 3 project. Initially, while funding was being sought after, it was not designated. It's on the SPLOST 3. That's been found. So the first step in this process to get this project awarded and moving forward is to designate it. And it's our recommendation for the board to approve that.
Are there any questions or comments?
Move to approve.
Can I have a motion by Mr. Stamey to approve? Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Holder. All in favor? Motion carries 5-0. Moving on to the next item, we have a resolution approving a budget amendment transferring funds from State Route 81 at Bethany Road and State Route 81 at Keys Ferry Road to State Route 81 at Lake Dow Road, and that's going to be handout number 2.
This item here is the funding mechanism to get the project funded. I'll try to be kind of brief on this, but I think it would be interesting for the public to know a little bit of the history of this project. This project started off many years ago. We went after some earmark funds from the federal government. We acquired $600,000 in a grant. We later found out that that grant required a 20% match, and 20% of our money made up the $600,000, so we were only getting $480,000, and our 20% match was $120,000. So our $600,000 grant dropped to $480,000. Then federal government had some money problems, and it's since dropped to $431,000. Georgia DOT did the design, and it is a federal process. I think this project, Randy's been going on for 4 or 5 years, I believe. It was 5 years, I believe it was in progress before you came in the first time. So we are glad to see this project at this point. What it requires now, this resolution will require a total amount of $357,801.56. It'll be broke down accordingly. GDOT did the design. We have to reimburse them. Commissioner Holder, on this particular project, there's federal funding and local funding and no GDOT funding, right? So it's either all going to be paid for by federal or local. So the local, federal put in about $15,000 for design. We're adding $81,489.37 that we'll be paying to GDOT. Construction money, our portion, is $213,812.19. We have 2 right-of-way parcels that we are negotiating, so we're reserving $600,000 for those. And then Rocky's got in there construction administration and miscellaneous at $2,500. So that all adds up to the $357,801.56. I think $220,864 coming from 81 in Bethany, and $136,937.56 coming from 81 in Keys Ferry. Recommend approval. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I have one question. This does not include a signal, is that correct?
That's the latest I heard. I'm going to try to get a set of plans, and maybe I can answer that to the board tomorrow night to make sure one way or the other. But let me make sure. I'm going to actually try to get a set of plans from GDOT so I'll know for sure.
Well, I know I had heard multiple times that it didn't warrant a traffic signal there, and I think you'll find the majority of citizens that utilize that area would be in disagreement, especially during rush hour. And not even rush hours, it's any time of the day. So
it depends on how you look at it. There's 8 warrants for traffic signals. Without discounting rights, it would meet those warrants, those volume warrants. If you discount the right turns or coming from Lake Dow turning right going toward McDonough, if you discount those volumes, then it falls short. A lot of discussion between us and GDOT as to how much of those rights should be discounted. So I'm anxious to see how that's going to turn out. But
We can always invite them to come down one afternoon and try to navigate that intersection.
There's another signal that's going in that we're probably going to do that same invitation on and let them see. But at least on this project, we're getting the major cost in, which is all the asphalt and the turn lanes and all that. The signal portion, if they don't add it, and it has to be added, which is not our desire, but if that does happen, that's $100,000 to $125,000 range to come back and do it, when and if they will give us that signal permit. So first step, of course, is to get it realigned, get all the turn lanes in there so it can function properly, and then we'll work on the warrant if it's not in there. But I'll let the board know on that.
I know it's the citizens, we get calls a lot of times when improvements are going on state routes and questions as to why certain processes and procedures take place, and it really looks foolish when a citizen sees you go in and do an intersection improvement minus a signal, and they go through all the inconvenience of that construction, and then, a few months later or a year later, you come back and a signal's installed. Why wasn't it done the first time around? Because common sense would tell you that's the way it needs to be done. But locally, our hands are tied when it's on a state route. But we still get the telephone calls because it doesn't make sense to them. It certainly doesn't make sense to us. Obviously, it makes sense to somebody higher up, but, it's kind of frustrating. So it's good, I think, to let the people know what the process is. There are certain things we cannot do on state routes without approval.
That's correct. It does, as much as I would desire to do that particular intersection, it is on a state route, and we are out there by permit. We're in there right away, or they're actually letting the project and going to administer it. So we're just kind of a funding source on this one, so it'd be hard to take it over.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Mr. Stamey?
Terry, didn't 81 and Racetrack warranty traffic like there?
Racetrack in 81 is getting a signal.
I don't know if you saw it, Warren, but that same traffic study approximately 2 years ago was roughly 21,000 cars going down 81. And I don't think you're losing that kind of volume from the Publix down to Racetrack Road. So
No.
I definitely want to move the project, but it does make me concerned that we would improve this intersection without having approval of a red light, because really you're going to make that intersection more dangerous when you make a four-way stop there or two-way stop on 81 without a traffic light with full-blown turning lanes and everything.
Well, there won't be a stop condition on 81. There'll be a left turn lane if you're going eastbound to turn into Lake Dow. There'll be a left turn lane there, and there'll be two lanes at Lake Dow, and then a left turn lane on 81 like you're going to turn into Lake Dow. But the through volumes are there on 81. If you look at the volumes, the discount, the reason it doesn't meet it for GDOT is the volumes coming off of Lake Dow. Majority of those are in the AM, and they're a right turn going toward McDonough, logically, because everybody's going toward the interstate. And that's the volume they're discounting or not counting those rights, and that's what's hindering it from meeting the warrants for a signal. The gaps is my concern. Because you have such high volumes on 81, there's just not that many gaps for people to turn out, even to turn right. And there's where I differ with GDOT is a lot of places, if the volumes on the main line are like in this case 81, if they're not so high that there's some gaps where you can turn right, you can do that. In this case, those volumes are so high on 81, there is no gaps in the morning. It is a steady stream, going toward the interstate. I don't see how those people are going to turn right. And my concern is they get anxious and start doing things they shouldn't do, pulling in front of people, and that just won't be good.
And the second part of the question was, the 480 that was on Harrison 42 was supposed to be transferred down, but the federal budget, the way it is right now, they won't transfer it over without doing an amendment, and it would take too long, and this project's ready to go. Is that correct, Terry?
Right. Our transportation planning, Sherry and Michael, have been working on getting the money moved from Harrison 42 over to this intersection so we could take that other federal earmark project and pay for this one, but our state...
We've contacted the federal representatives, Joe Lillis, that we received the earmarks from, and what we've been told is that until a reauthorization bill occurs, we won't be able to move forward. So they have the request has been sent to them, they know what our desires are, but it said until a reauthorization bill takes place, and that's been postponed for over 18 months at this point. Until that happens, we don't know when that may take place.
But also the same study that was done on Lake Dow in 81 was done on Harrison 42, and it didn't warrant a traffic light, too.
It does. And leave it alone at Harrison 42 because we don't want to get that confused. We don't want to confuse the issue. Leave it in place now that the alternative funding, seriously. And you've got the funding. You've got the funding now, because if we cloud that issue, and it's a declining balance now from 600 to 480 to 431, we may not get enough to do one project anyhow by the time the money's released. So I would certainly encourage you to leave that alone and not ask for it to be transferred.
Right. That's the board's desire. We can certainly move in that direction.
Any other questions or comments?
I do.
Mr. Holder?
I probably shouldn't say any more about GDOT. I've already said too much many times before. But I couldn't help but comment about what Mr. McMichael has just said about why Lake Dow and 81 didn't meet the warrants. Because of the discount of the right-hand movements in the AM. Well, common sense tells you that those right-hand movements in the AM, the majority of which are going to be left-hand movements in the PM. Now, tell me how they're going to make the left turn onto Lake Dow when they're headed home. It's just common sense, and maybe that doesn't mean anything as far as engineering standards are concerned. And I'm not arguing with GDOT standards. But anybody who has driven that road knows that Highway 81 East is one of the heaviest traveled roads in the county. When the traffic study was done, the 22,000 cars at Bethany and 81 compared to 138 in Hemp Hill, or wherever the signal was going there, it was 12,000. It was about half. Other question. In this intersection improvement at Lake Dow and 81, how many dollars is GDOT bringing to the table? Now, remember, you said about federal funds and whatever. What is GDOT bringing to the table?
Georgia DOT itself, as far as state dollars, will not be putting in anything. It'll all be federal dollars to the amount of 431, and then the county will be putting in the remaining $300,000. So there's no state Georgia DOT money in it.
And I'm mindful of the fact that when Representative Davis stood here before us several meetings ago and basically told us that one of the reasons that GDOT didn't want to participate in some of these state routes was because of zonings that we had done. Well, ladies and gentlemen, Highway 81 is a state route, and there's so much traffic that comes from outside the county in addition to what's in Henry County. I don't know how that can be. Where is this intersection located?
I'm sorry?
Where is this intersection located?
It's kind of east of McDonough, I believe.
Thank you. I have no more comments.
Gary, another point of clarification that Mr. Holder just said is the 81-489, which was GDOT design, is being reimbursed by Henry County, correct?
The total design cost was $96,000. GDOT did the design. We're reimbursing GDOT for that design. About 15,000 came from federal to pay GDOT, and the remainder came from Henry County.
Understood.
And just so the board will know, I made a request that went to the district engineer, and district engineer sent it up higher, at least asking them to not charge us for the design, because that's just money that they pay their own folks, if you will, reimburse. But I understand they got to make payroll as well, but I tried my best to get that where the state would at least contribute to engineering, but I was unsuccessful at that.
I thought I had heard at one time, though, that they had recanted and were agreeable to put up a signal, to allow a signal at that unsafe.
At one point they were.
Okay, now that's off.
We're at a different point now, obviously.
Okay.
I think it's interesting, too, that we're having to pay them for the design. It's when the state cuts come down, generally it's at the expense of the local government, so we're helping to supplement their budget by sending money back up to them in this instance. So,
well, there's quite an improvement going along Highway 42 in Butts County. We've had this comment earlier by one of the representatives, and they said it was because Butts County was not in the attainment area, that it was outside. But anybody of you traveling south on Highway 42, I'd like for you to see what's taking place between, for several miles, and Butts County pays zero. GDOT and Federal Highway or whatever the funding source was 100%. Road relocation, passing lanes, signalization, with no cost to the taxpayers of Butts County. So, you figure.
Just one time that I do agree with Commissioner Holder on some of the issues about North McDonough and where that's going and things going around the county. You know, when we look at about an intersection of that magnitude, to revamp this thing and not have a signal there is just putting a Band-Aid on something that we know in the future. It's needed now. And it blows my mind to think that this county it grew so quick and we couldn't keep up. Now we're at a point that we're trying to get caught up on some of these intersections, and the state won't show us no love here to try to get this thing fixed, knowing that when this economy gets straightened out, it's going to continue to grow, and the traffic is going to continue to grow there. For us to go in there and to do what we're doing, and we'll have to do it, and for them to say that we can't get a red light, I just don't understand their way of thinking. We have been criticized in this county for years for not having. We can't see far enough out. You know, we haven't made the right plans. You know, over the last 20 years, I've been here for nearly 35 years, and we've seen where there was no road projects going. Now we've got some $46 million road projects going on in this county. In this economy, thanks to the staff and the board that I'm fortunate enough to sit on, is to make these things happen. And it frustrates me to think that with an intersection like that, wreck after wreck is down there. Now, we're doing all this effort to it, and the state is not going to help us or show us any kind of favoritism in putting a signal there. It's you know, Keys Ferry down there, I can kind of see that. But at Lake Dow in 81, I'm just really in a tailspin over the whole concept. You want to tell the state folks, you need to come down here just like Madam Chair said. You know, the mornings or the evenings or whatever it is, you know. What you have to do, Commissioner Holder, the ones that's going in, that go a different way. I mean, you know what I'm saying? That's about some of the things we've had to do in this county because of the fast growth that we experienced. And getting around, we've had to take alternate routes. And I don't know. I'm beside myself when this thing comes and we can't put a signal there. And that does not have nothing to do with the district that I represent, but I don't know.
Any other questions or comments?
One last comment. Here, you said the 93,000 number on the design, the GDOT. Can you ask them one more time if they would be willing to pay for the design if they would approve the red light? Because the savings on the design would just about pay for the red light.
Correct. I certainly can ask again, but I don't think it'll do much good under the circumstances. the reason, and here's the answer that I was sort of giving the county, again, going back a little bit in time, and I think it was when Chairman Harper was in office, he got a call from Congressman Westmoreland and said, I have an opportunity for 2 projects, submit me 2 projects. We submitted Lake Dow and 81 and Harrison 42 as earmarks. Once those were funded as earmarked projects, those amounts of dollars, the $600,000 was put on each one. That attached, if you will, and then the county said that we would pick up anything above that $600,000. Once that went in the system that way, it went in the system that way. So GDOT has no mechanism internally to put money on it now. For them to pay that additional, right now what's owed on the engineering is $81,489.37. So that $81.5 or $81,500, GDOT would have to find money somewhere within their budget and move it to that. And that's probably, well, again, what they're going to tell me is originally the county agreed to fund anything above the earmark. So you said you would do it, you need to do it. So they're just not working with us very well on that. I mean, I'd be happy to ask them again, but I took it up through the district engineer, and the district engineer called the finance office, and those guys are pretty cold when it comes to that. I mean, they just, nope, this is the funding, this is the way it's laid out, and that's the way it's going to be. So.
Any other questions or comments? If not, you have a resolution before you approving a budget amendment to transfer those funds to State Route 81 at Lake Dow Road. I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Have a motion by Mr. Stamey. Second by Mr. Holder. All in favor? Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next item is a resolution requesting approval of a change order and a transfer of funds to complete the construction of the Fairview Recreation Center. Our presenter is Ron Burkhalter, Capital Projects Director, Exhibit Number 5. Good morning.
Chairman, Commissioners, good morning. Rock was encountered at the Fairview Rec Center site. MWC Construction removed 2,455 cubic yards of mass rock and 528 cubic yards of trench rock. Construction Material Services and staff has verified the quantities. A change order was submitted by MWC in the amount of $179,958.50 for the rock removal. Additional funds are also needed in the project for the furniture, fixtures, and equipment. That item totals $297,041.50. Funding for these items is available to be transferred from savings from SPLOST 2 Parks and Capital Funds. Any questions?
Do you have any questions or comments, Mr. Bowman?
Just actually, it's more on the line on the rock. The prior to construction, Ron, we had test borings. That's correct.
Yes.
We'd had test borings, and actually, due to some of the test borings, we actually we moved the building to get out of that rock, and we ended up sitting on top of some other rock. But these are unforeseen conditions. This is not something that the contractor nor the county would have known, because you can't test bore the entire site every 12 feet just to try and find rock, especially when you're right next to Panola Mountain. So anyway, just in the form of a comment that that's the reason we had a rock clause in place, so that the change orders, we would know the amount of the change order prior to. We wouldn't know the amount of the rock, but we would know the amount that the change order would be based on the amount of rock that was taken out, and trench rock is probably the toughest one to deal with, because in a lot of cases, I was over there on several Saturdays when they were actually blasting, so, it's a pretty good bit of rock in there. So I just wanted to, basically the people that are watching this to understand that this is an unforeseen condition. Nobody knows what's below the dirt. We did due diligence, we did test bore, and we did move it to get it off of some rock and put it on some other rock. So basically, there's just rock there. That's all I have.
We actually, just to add to that, after we actually, during the excavation process, that we encountered the rock, okay, we did some additional test drilling, okay, to get a better quantifying of the rock, and we tried moving the building again, okay, to see if we could, and we did mitigate it just a little bit, okay, by doing those additional drillings after we hit it during the excavation.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? All right, if not, Mr. Basler, this lies in your district, and this is a resolution to approve the change order for the rock removal and the FF&E and other miscellaneous items to the budget for the Fairview Rec Center. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved, Madam Chair.
Motion to approve by Mr. Basler. Second by Mr. Roark. All in favor? Motion carries 5-0. Okay, and Mr. Burkhalter, you also have the next item, which is a resolution requesting award of a bid to construct the domestic violence shelter. That's going to be exhibit number 6.
Seal bids were solicited to construct the domestic violence shelter, also known as the Haven House. 18 bids were received and reviewed by the staff. Staff recommends awarding the job to the low bidder, Classic Plains Construction, out of Marietta, Georgia, in the amount of $1,286,900. Funding for the project is available in SPLOST 3. Any questions?
What was the original budget on this?
The total budget is $2 million.
I know this particular building underwent a number of changes to try to get those costs down, because there was concerns that $2 million would not be adequate to build the facility. And I know Mr. Bowman's worked a lot on redesigning some of the roof angles and different things like that. And, of course, with the economy being like it is and the bids coming in a lot lower, that's helped as well. So I'm glad to see that number. We were concerned that that $2 million would not be enough, so
yes.
That's a good number. Mr. Bowman?
Well, and not to mention the fact we had 18 qualified bidders. I mean, that's pretty good. I don't know anything about Classic Plains. However, I do know the majority of the other bidders, and Headley Construction was the company that built the first rec center for District 4, which that was before my time, but Headley's been around for an awfully long time, which kind of makes that low number look a little better, because I get a little concerned when somebody I've never heard of comes in and they're that low, but Headley's been around forever, so it kind of confirms that number. But it's good to see we're getting that, because when I first came in the office, we were getting 3-4 bids. And I know the economics has got something to do with it, but changing the methods by which we bid things is also making a big difference, where you don't have the mandatory bid walks, where you can do some things, and that it opens that up tremendously, and it is doing better. And also Ron has made a lot of changes in not only the design but some other things to reduce the cost in it. So I'm going to he's done a good job on it. He's contacted me. We've talked about it, and some things that weren't needed, he's cut out some of the bells and whistles, and you can see it in the numbers. It reflects in the numbers, and that's what we need to do. And I think he's done a good job, and I appreciate it.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments?
What will the capacity be of this? What will the capacity be of this? Do we know?
When you say capacity, the way that the building is designed, there's 2 wings of the building that are for residents that will be in there. There's an additional wing that is for staff. And are you talking?
No, I'm talking about how many many clients would be housed in a day for one of the
Marjorie Lacey is the director. She's here, and Marjorie, if you would come up to the microphone so everyone can hear you.
I just wanted to clarify when you were talking
Yes, thank
total
you.
occupants or total.
Yeah.
With the design, because we have the other wing off, right?
Yes.
It's going to be about 40 to 50 people.
How many do you currently have? Yeah, Chief.
18 to 20.
18 to 20, and the facility that you're currently in is kind of falling down around you, is that?
It is
would that be safe
definitely
to say?
falling down around us. And, in addition to that 18 to 20 people, we usually, in fact, last week, we had to rent 2 motel rooms. So that's a normal thing for us. So we're very excited.
And the reason I bring that up is to piggyback on what Commissioner Holder said earlier about the unfortunate need to fund these various programs. This facility is going to sadly be full pretty soon after it's over, I imagine.
But that's an okay thing. Well, because we fix things on the other side. So it's good.
Well, this will be a much better facility. I mean, we've got areas where we can do playground and some things, because there's a lot of, obviously, there's kids, a lot of kids involved in it. So
There really are a lot of children, and we're working hard to.
And where it is, too, also, we won't talk about where it is, but where it is, we have plenty of uniforms around that can kind of keep an eye on things. And I think that's a good thing also. So.
And thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? If not, you have a resolution before you awarding the bid to Classic Plains Construction in the amount of $1,286,900. And I'll have a motion to approve by Mr. Bowman. Second by Mr. Stamey. All in favor? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you. Moving on, under Planning and Zoning Services, we have a resolution requesting approval of a memorandum of understanding with the Fuller Center. Our presenter is Michael Harris, Planning and Zoning Services Division Director, handout number 3. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you, Chairman. Good morning, board members. We're going to stay on topic with the Haven House. This is actually what we're discussing. An offshoot of the Haven House is the Blessings Thrift Store located on Work Camp Road. Back a few weeks ago, myself and Mike Keebold, the Director of Facilities Maintenance, met with Marjorie and Mr. Shane Prasad with the Fuller Center for Housing of Atlanta. What the Fuller Center does is there's a nonprofit organization dedicated to addressing the housing needs of local communities in and around the metropolitan Atlanta area. In this particular instance, the Fuller Center has teamed up with volunteers from Wesley Way United Methodist Church, and they've actually come to the county, offering their volunteer services to help do some repairs, some much-needed repairs at the Blessings Thrift Store that's operated by the Haven House. We've met with them, we've met on site, and the primary goal in this endeavor will be to replace the roof, which is dilapidated and much in need of repair. They've given us kind of their list of what some of the things they're proposing to do. Again, principally it would be the roof replacement. We will be supplementing their work with some of our work by utilizing some of our inmate labor to do the removal of the existing roof and replacing the sheathing as needed. They'll also be coming in and do some landscaping work, painting the facility, address some of the drainage concerns around the building as well. The way they function is the Fuller Center comes in and they solicit donations of materials or funds to be able to purchase the materials needed, and then they come in and provide the materials and do all the work with volunteer labor. They have provided a draft memorandum of understanding as well as a draft liability form. Staff, we're reviewing those documents right now, but right now the work is scheduled for June 24th, 25th, and 26th. So we wanted to come before the board, get authorization from the board to enter into an agreement to sign a memorandum of understanding. While we're still working out the details, we're working with our legal department to nail down the details. We'll have those documents in place prior to the beginning of any work. But since there wasn't a meeting scheduled between then and now, we wanted to go ahead and come to the board now and make this request. Both Ms. Marjorie Lacey is here to address any questions you may have, as well as Mr. Shane Prasad, who sits on the board of directors with the Fuller Center, and Chris Painter with the Facilities Maintenance Department as well, in case of any specific questions that you may have regarding this.
LaTanya, you have reviewed the MOU and everything is as it should be?
I've reviewed what has been drafted, or included in your packet. I'm going to fine-tune that and fashion it to fit our needs, as well as draft a liability or waiver form, similar to what we have done in the past for these type of donated services.
Is this something that we should wait until tomorrow night before we approve it? Because if you're changing the MOU that's attached to our resolution, or can we word the resolution that the MOU would be according to the recommendations of the county attorney's office?
Yes, I think that would be a good addition.
Okay. Any board member have a question or comment? All right, if not, you have a resolution before you to authorize the agreement with the Fuller Center to perform repairs at the Haven House Blessings Thrift Store, which that facility is owned by the Henry County Board of Commissioners, and for approving a memorandum of understanding based on the recommendations of our county attorney. I'll entertain a motion. Motion by Mr. Holder. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Basler. All in favor? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you. At this time, we need the approval of the April 19th and 20th regular meeting minutes, and I believe Mr. Roark was not here for those two meetings, and I would ask if there are any corrections or additions to be made. If not, I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
Move to approve, Madam Chair.
Have a motion by Mr. Holder. Second by Mr. Stamey. All in favor? Motion carries 4-0. Mr. County Manager, any comments for public session?
I have one quick item to ask for official action from the board on a budget item, a very important budget item, which you have informally approved already, and that would be the furlough days in the setting of the floating holidays for 2011. As you know, the FY11 budget was quite a difficult budget to get to a balanced number. We ended up cutting $9.5 million out of reducing the FY11 $9.5 million from the FY10 budget. Actually reduced it, as several of the commissioners recognized, almost $1 million less than the FY06 budget was 5 years ago. As part of that, we asked everybody to sacrifice and to give something up. And our employees have done that with 4 furlough days. And I would ask for the public consumption, as well as for anybody who has not heard it, for the board to officially approve the following furlough days for 2010 and 2011: July 2nd, 2010, September 3rd, 2010, April 25th, 2011, and May 27th, 2011, as well as adopt the 2 floating holidays for 2011 as April 22nd, which is Good Friday, and December 30th, 2011, which will be the New Year's Eve holiday.
I believe this requires an official resolution, does it, LaTanya?
Well, I would think so, and for this reason too, Madam Chairman, the County Superior Court Clerk's Office is the only department by law that's mandated to be open 5 days a week from 8 to 5 p.m. And what the law provides is that the county clerk's office can be closed based upon an official holiday designation by the Board of Commissioners. So if you approve the proposed resolution as proposed by the county manager, then I would ask that you include a statement that declares those days as official county holidays so that the Superior Court clerk could close those offices on those days.
Would this be something that you would need to draft, and then we could have an official resolution to approve at the meeting tomorrow evening?
I certainly can do that.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
In addition, we also are building in the type of flexibility needed for public safety, as well as, I believe, one state court conflict with one day that they could not change.
Well, we'll take this matter up tomorrow evening. Mr. Bowman?
For the county manager, there was also an issue with our transportation. Is there an issue with that we have to kind of work around it? There's something with that?
David will have to work around, because if there are clients at the Developmental Disabilities Office, we will have to provide transportation pursuant to our grant So I think David is gone, but we are working around that.
I have one other thing, Madam Chair, if you don't mind, and it's unrelated to anything that we've actually talked about this morning, and this was prior to your becoming county manager for Henry County. But I've gotten a number of calls, and I hadn't had a chance, but I'm doing it in public so that some can let us know who they are. We had raised a fair amount of money for the Veterans Wall of Honor for the flags. I think we've got 60 flags out there, counting the ones for the different services and that sort of thing. In doing so, we had stated that we would do a very small 4-inch by 6-inch or 6 by 6-inch plaque at each flag or at flags for the ones that done that. And off the top of my head, Michael Gasses purchased 2 at I want to say we were doing those at $1,200 a piece. And Mayor Lindsay in Locust Grove purchased 1 or 2. There were several. Tony Moy purchased 1. And I would like for, if you can, to see if we can locate that list, because I honestly don't know who all I collected money from. I just know that I collected it. And for somehow or another, it got away, and we just need to find it. And I'm doing it on camera so that people know that we're going to look after it, and we promised to do that, and they donated money, and that we're going to do what we can to find out who's done it.
I appreciate that, and that has been part of the ongoing discussion of the wall and the repairs that we have made. We've talked to Todd Ernst about exactly what the base of the flagpole would look like to attach the plaque to. So I'll follow up with Mr. Bush on those dollars, those donations, and we'll see that that's done.
I appreciate it, and that way they can contact us now, the ones that are watching or the ones that do watch, and say, well, I gave money, and if it gets to be an issue, we'll say, well, send us a council check. But I don't think that's going to be the issue. But the bottom line is that I've been getting some calls, and I just wanted to, and I should have already mentioned it to you, and I apologize for dropping it on you here, but I just got a call coming in, and we had so many other things going on, I forgot to mention it to you. So
we'll follow up in time for the next meeting.
I appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
Ms. County Attorney, any comments?
No, ma'am.
At this time, we do have one citizen that has signed up for public comment, and this is the time when citizens are allowed to voice county-related concerns, opinions, et cetera, that are not listed on our agenda during this portion of the meeting. And Ms. Helene Whidden has signed up, and she lives at 495 Old Conyers Road in Stockbridge, and she's here to speak about budget cuts to Cochrane Library, specifically, I believe it says story time.
Yeah.
Good morning.
Hi, good morning. I just wanted to bring to your attention my displeasure with the recent budget cuts for the Henry County Library in Cochrane in particular. A few of the employees that have been cut from the budgets run story time in the community. And really in Henry County, there's not that much available for our stay-at-home moms and young children or grandparents and other caretakers who look after young children. There's not a YMCA or Gymboree or really any other programs that allow us and the kids to get together. And I just wanted to express, I think it's unfortunate, and Mr. Holder, you had mentioned how important family is and our education of our children, and that to me is just unfortunate that had to be something that was taken away when there was so little really offered in Henry County. So, thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
If you had been here very long, you would have also heard me make comments about how important the libraries are in this county, too. Mm-hmm. There's no question about it.
Yeah, there is the particular employee I'm speaking of sees 40 to 50 children on a weekly basis that she has in her groups, and the groups will no longer be available. And that's 40 to 50 children that won't be receiving that type of interaction and educational opportunity every week. And I think it's unfortunate that is something that we have to cut out of our budget. Thanks.
Mr. County Manager, would you like to comment on this?
I just think it's important to note that we do not, the Board of Commissioners is not responsible for the daily operations of the library. There is an appointed library board that I would refer you to, and we have had discussions, budget discussions with library board and staff, and suggested other possibilities for operating hours, and I hope that discussion continues internally with the library.
Thank you. The upcoming meetings and events will be tomorrow, June 15th at 6:30 p.m. This is a regular board meeting. Friday, July 2nd, county offices will be closed for a furlough day. Monday, July 5th, all county offices will be closed in observance of the Independence Day holiday. Tuesday, July the 6th at 9 a.m., there's a regular board meeting. We are not going to have an executive session today, and so at this time, I would ask for a motion to adjourn. Motion by Mr. Holder. Do we have to stay in session for the trip to Covington, or can we adjourn?
I don't think the county clerk is attending the field trip with you all. It has been publicly noticed, so you can go ahead and adjourn this meeting and convene for your field trip.
Okay, so we have a motion to adjourn by Mr. Holder. Second by Mr. Stamey. All in favor. Motion carries 5-0. We'll stand adjourned.